You are listening to Slightly Sauced.
Good evening and welcome to episode 206 of Slightly Sauced. My name is John.
You're not
Derek.
the first.
You're not first.
No, you said, well, someone's still going to do the intro. Was Derek going to do the intro?
What's the intro?
See, you don't even know. You're Derek.
Hi, I'm Slightly Sauced. I'm Derek.
Okay, who comes after Derek?
You!
I already did.
You don't even know.
No,
You're
Jake
Derek.
is next. J.A. comes
This is
before
ridiculous.
J.O.
Can we start again?
No, we can't. This is it. We're rolling with it. You wanted to do alphabetical. You own it.
Kayla.
I'm Jake. Hi.
I'm Kayla.
Hi.
Tyler?
No!
Is that my go?
It's the last time we try and do anything smart on this fucking show. Alphabetical's a terrible idea. Nobody knows the alphabet.
I know I'm first.
Well, welcome to the show. What do we start? Oh, yeah, we start with Tyler. What's the name of the thing we start with? Tyler?
Look at this thing.
Which thing?
No, that's the
That's the thing?
Look at this thing.
It's the newest thing. It's the name of the thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So who's going first?
So, look at this thing. There's a giant apple with a smiley face on the side of the road on the way to Kingston. It is the land marker for the Big Apple Company. And the Big Apple Company is, as you would expect, an orchard. And they do all things apple.
What,
and
like
so,
just apples?
all things. Apples, apple fritters, apple pies, apple lollies, apple coffee. If you can shove an apple in it, they have.
Uh-huh. And we're
They
to
have
look at
apple
this
assholes?
because...
It's a roadside attraction, and you should visit all the
Oh.
roadside attractions.
Oh, you know, I don't think I've ever visited a roadside attraction, to be honest with you.
What? Okay, so I had felt the same way until this past weekend when Jake and I went to Kingston. And every time we drive up the 401, so it's on the 401 in Coburn, and every time we have driven past going east on the 401, we pass this giant apple with this adorable face on the side of the road. And ever since I've been in Ontario, it's been there, and we've never stopped in. So on this trip, as an adult, that was my rule. We are stopping.
Okay. And
I'm
how did it
very
go?
glad
Was
we
it
did.
worth your stop?
Hell yes, it was worth our stop. So, not only do they have everything Apple, things that should be and things that should not be Apple, they also have a distillery on site, or rather a brewery on site, where they do apple cider, and they do a whole range of apple cider, including ciders that contain various fruits that are not apples, like pears and currants. And then they also have their bakery, of course, which is their big attraction. Most people don't make it to the brewery, according to the lady that I was talking to
They
today.
just stay in the bakery and eat all the Apple product?
Yeah, so they sell apples. So you've got your Gala apples and your Cortland apples and all the variety of apples, with the exception of
Well,
Granny
really-
Smith.
The really neat thing is that you can actually you can see them making the Apple products. Like the bakery has windows inside, so it's a
Oh,
it's a
well,
whole
that's kinda
team
cool.
of people constructing these things.
Yeah.
The thing to note, however, is that the ladies who are making and the men who are making the bakery products, they're like zoo animals, and they don't like it when you tap on the glass. They gave the little boy beside me a real dirty look.
Well, I mean, do you blame them? They're trying to do their job. How would you feel if someone was tapping on the glass at your job?
Appreciated.
Okay.
Noticed.
No, fair enough.
We do that to the sales guy. We call it the fishbowl or the hot box.
Why aren't you closing? Always be closing.
So
Okay, so we should stop
we
at roadside
enjoyed our
attractions.
trip.
That's the thing?
You should definitely. So the other nice thing is that they tell you where other. So they're like their big thing is the giant apple on the side of the road, but they have as you walk through, they also list all of the other big attractions. So you've got the Goose in Wawa, and you've got the Nickel up in Sudbury, and there's a giant patio chair up in the Muskokas. As we
never
were
been to
corrected, it
any
is
of these
a
places.
Muskoka chair. So the problem is that you're not stopping at the kitschy side of the road places, and you should.
I don't think that's a problem. I think that's a virtue.
You know, I was entirely dismissive of the idea, but it actually wasn't bad. I thought it was going to be so trite and tacky, and it did have those elements, but you know, it seemed to be all right,
No,
especially
Jake,
if you had
what
wiener
you're-
kids in the summer.
what you're not admitting
right? Like
to
they had all
yourself,
these
Jake,
free
is-
activities.
What you're not admitting to yourself is you're getting old. This is just a part of getting old. This is like
No,
how
but-
Oh
I
no,
was thinking the
do
same
you
thing.
think that's the case?
No, I swear that I legitimately enjoy going to antique stores and flea markets now. It's just that I'm getting old. Those things aren't any cooler than they used to be. I'm just getting old.
Okay, so I'm not quite that old. I was.
You're stopping at
bored
Jake
for
roadside
almost
about-
attractions.
lost his shit when we went antique shopping a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Like, straight up, if I hadn't have driven, Jake would have left my ass at the antique store.
Maybe you're just horrible to
Because-
go antique shopping with.
I am.
Well.
Because the problem is I'm looking for very specific things that do not exist.
Oh, okay.
We went to the St. Jacob's antique
Well,
store.
that's your first problem. That place sucks.
No, it's amazing.
It's
no,
terrible.
it is amazing.
No,
what is so
it's
terrible
awful.
about it?
It's
I
all
found
picked
a-
over. There's no good shit in there.
I found a
Too many
mint
tourists.
condition George Carlin record with the 7 words you can't say on TV
Okay,
as
that's
one
pretty
of the
cool.
tracks.
All right, that's
So
pretty
don't
all right.
say that it's all picked over. You just have to know where to look.
Okay.
This week on Slightly Antiques.
Does anybody
Doesn't
else have
make-
anything
Call my
else we should
buddy.
check out?
In other record news, the Tragically Hip have re-released 3 of their albums on vinyl, including Live Between Us, which I could not be more stoked for. It is an album I have been looking for years.
Kelly, you
and
should have been
it
here for the
just got
previous
repressed.
episode. My thing that I was sharing on the previous episode was a thing that you were going to love. You have to go back and listen to episode 204. You're going to love it.
Oh man, listen to the show. Can't you just tell
205.
me now?
Oh, shit, 205. No, I'm not going to tell you now. All the people listening to this have already heard it. I'll tell you after the show.
Ernie, send me an email. Let me know what happened on 205.
I think we're going to break space time with this episode.
Yeah, possibly. Does anybody else have something that we should watch or read
Yes.
or look at?
Excuse me. I've got another podcast.
What?
to
Hey,
recommend.
hang on. No, we are all about podcast monogamy up in here. No other podcasts.
It's a competitor, but no, really, it has nothing to do with us. It's called Wrongful.
Look it up.
Yep. Type that into
Just
Google.
as soon as you can figure out how to spell it.
Just do a Hey Google and play what I just said.
Sure.
No, it's called Wrongful Conviction with Jason Flom, and it's basically every episode is an interview with someone who was convicted of a crime that they didn't commit, and then later exonerated and freed. So it's simultaneously incredibly depressing because you see they walk through the whole story about how they got convicted. You know, whether it was dirty cops or bad evidence or whatever the case may be. And then all the legal struggles they go through to try and free themselves. And then, now that they're free, what they're doing with their lives. And generally they're all pitching in to try and help other people in the same situation. So it's kind of, it goes hand in hand with the Innocence Foundation, which is a nonprofit that works to provide lawyers and financial aid to people who have been convicted of a crime they didn't commit and try and get them out of jail. But anyway, it's very much like it's kind of like an episodic version of Making a Murderer, although in this case they're all at least innocent. In the latter's case, we're not entirely sure. So yeah, definitely check it out if that sounds like something you'd be interested in.
Huh. That sounds terrible. I'm not going to do that.
Why?
Because I'm a big pussy. I don't want. I would probably cry at that. Is what I would probably do. I'm just a big
What's wrong
pussy.
with crying, John?
It's not a thing that I enjoy doing. I know. It doesn't sound like a show that I want to watch, listen to, whatever it is.
See, I definitely.
I've got
There are
a-
tons of TV shows that I know are going to make me cry, but I watch anyways because
Oh,
it feels a bit
it's the
cathartic.
worst. No, I'm not going to do that. Not interested. I got a thing you should check out, though. This is a YouTube video. It's actually a series of YouTube videos. There's 3 of them. This is by a guy. He's an Italian guy on YouTube. His name is Giaco whatever. And he makes shit in workshops. Which
Is that his legal name, or
yes,
are you just
definitely. No, he's little
Giaco, whatever.
That's right. Yeah, so listen, I make videos about making shit on YouTube. I watch a lot of videos about making shit on YouTube. This guy makes cool shit. And recently he made what he calls a razor spinner. So you remember Beyblades? Do you
Yes.
ever see those things that you spin with a ripcord and they go fast and then they hit each other in a little arena?
Mhm.
Yeah, he made one out of machined aluminum. So he machined a circle of aluminum and put speed holes around it and then stuck a ball bearing in the middle, shoved a spike down the center, and then he screwed razor blades off the edge. So then he gets this thing set up, and then he gets it going with compressed air, and it spins at over 900 RPM, and it spins these razor blades around, and then he runs it down a ramp into random shit. And so he's run it into Barbie dolls and cans of whipped cream and cans of propane, and shit blows up and explodes, and it's amazing, and it looks super dangerous, and it'll rip your face off. It's pretty cool. So you should check out the videos.
Sounds like a game of bloody knuckles waiting to happen with some folks who've
these
had
are
a little bit
razor
too
blades,
much to
man.
drink.
Like, this will rip your goddamn
and?
fingers off. You should see
You
it.
know that there are games like Russian roulette that exist, right?
No, it's true. It's true. And it makes a great noise when it gets up to speed because it's effectively an air tool. So it gets this great whine at it, too. It's pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, it's neat. I'll put the video just down in the description.
I've got another YouTube channel to share.
Okay.
It is called The Great War, hosted by Indy Nidell. It takes you through literally every single week of First World War.
Oh, yeah?
It is fantastic.
One week by 1 week in a series of videos?
Yeah, every week they put out one video of what happened that week 100 years ago.
Fantastic.
And you learn about the origins of the war. You learn about all sorts of different political situations that were happening in each country, stuff that you didn't really get in your history.
Have you listened to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast on the First World War? He's got a series of 3 of them, I think.
I've listened to a few of them, but not his First World War ones, but some other of his podcast, and they're pretty good. But this YouTube series is by far probably one of the most phenomenal historical entertainment products that you can watch.
Nice. That sounds like something I'd like to watch.
So I was actually going to talk about Jake's and my trip to Kingston.
Is this aside from the Big Apple?
The Big Apple was a junction way to Kingston.
Okay.
So it was kind of the halfway-ish point. So we stopped, we let the dog out, got some pie, got a monster pie. It was 6 pounds of pie.
Holy fuck,
So
that's a
worth
big
it.
pie.
It was a large pie. So
Is it gone now?
we took it to Kingston and left it in Kingston. So
Okay, you
I
didn't-
assume that it is gone now.
How fast do you think you could
Why'd you-
consume 6 pounds of pie?
Because I was going to come over and try.
It was an apple crumble. It was delicious. It was a really good pie.
Nice.
I think it would take a couple sittings to get through 6
I
pounds
don't
of
think
pie.
that I could go through that in any reasonable period of time.
Yeah. But to be fair, we were staying with my cousin and his family, and they're a family of 7. So there were 9 of us all together, so we didn't even have to eat a pound of pie each.
Okay, not so bad then.
So the highlight of this trip for me, we did some of the touristy stuff. We did like a tour of Kingston. My cousin works for the military, so he took us on base and showed us kind of around the base and what goes on in each of the buildings and what his role on base there is. But the interesting part for me is that my cousin has been slowly and diligently working on a family genealogy for both sides of, well, for his whole family, which includes my paternal side. So that would be my grandmother, my grandfather, and their descendants, or rather their ancestors. I am their descendant. And so what he's done is, with his, military hookups and a whole lot of public information, he's gone through and he's been able to track our family history through back to, I think, one family member he can track back to the 1600s. When they first came over, they were brought over from France to colonize Montreal. And so he has records of what this person was promised in return for coming to Montreal.
Male or
which
female,
was,
this person?
Male. So
I was just wondering if it was like a Fille de Roy or some situation like that.
So he was promised a 13-year-old.
Oh,
in
God.
exchange for
Wow.
him coming over from France.
That's a
And he was
unconventional
promised
promise.
a plot of land in what is now Montreal proper. And
Did he claim his land and 13-year-old?
I do believe he did.
Huh.
He, I believe, married the 13-year-old. And so what my cousin has done is he's amassed both physical records as well as digital records, whatever's available. And so together we were going through some of the more interesting points of our family history. So, and then of course the family lore that goes along with it, which is quite interesting. But one of the favorite things that I came across today is the medical rejection that my grandfather received during World War II. So he was living in Timmins at the time, and he was required to present for active duty.
Mm-hmm.
And when he did, he was rejected due to medical reasons. And so his medical rejection is a government document, which is printed on the most fascinating. It's not even paper. It felt like a linen that it's printed on. It kind of has like a raised denim-y feel to it, and it's blue. And I guess you were required to have a copy of it on you in case you were asked, why aren't you serving?
Oh, so you had to carry it around with you. That's interesting.
It was like a piece of identification that stated why he was not in active service, because at that time we were enlisting whomever we could to serve in World War II.
That's so strange. I've never heard of that before. Like, I've heard of them rejecting you for medical reasons and not serving, but I've never heard of you having to carry this like linen thing around to prove it.
And I don't know that he had to carry it per se, but there was a wallet-sized copy and there was like a full certificate-sized copy, and both were signed by the medical, the physician, the Army physician who had inspected him and determined that he was unfit for duty due to flat feet, which I guess was a common
What
reason
exactly
for
is
being
flat feet? Is it literally like you don't have an arch?
Yeah, poor arches.
Yeah.
So what does
just
that
mean?
like? You couldn't march any significant distance?
Yeah, exactly. You'll be in pain, and there's a whole bunch of other
Really?
side effects from that.
I didn't know that.
I have flat feet. It
So
sucks.
do you have to have arch supports or special inserts for your boots or something?
Yeah, I did for a really long time. I don't wear them so much anymore because luckily, you know, as a kid, when you wear them all the time, it slowly builds up
Oh,
the
okay.
arch.
Uh,
So I can, you know, walk with normal boots on like a normal human being now.
And so if you hadn't have done that, you just wouldn't be able to spend all day in your boots or something like that?
No. And like as a kid, it would be like extreme pain in your shins and your back.
Oh, it's not necessarily in your feet. It's in all the other muscles compensating for your feet.
Yeah,
Interesting.
exactly.
Oh, wow.
Like your
Didn't know that.
feet would hurt too, but for sure, like it was like I would get these terrible shin aches.
Oh, wow.
Crazy.
Jesus. I didn't know about that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So all of this is really a segue into genome mapping.
Yeah.
My cousin has done his 23andMe DNA profile.
Oh, now,
And
this is interesting. What do you think about 23andMe? Because I was talking to Steph about this a little while ago. I saw it was The Modern Rogue on YouTube. It's a good YouTube channel. Brian Brushwood, if you remember him, Ty, from back in the day. And they do all kinds of stuff, and they did a genome mapping and looked at, like, I guess they give you back a heat map of, like, where your ancestors are from and stuff, but you have to send them a swab of your DNA, and I'm not
But
sure
unless-
how I feel about that.
Allegedly, it's confidential, and they don't use it for anything else. My
Allegedly,
brother actually bought
yeah.
my dad a kit for Christmas.
Because, like, it sounds fascinating to me. It really does sound interesting, but...
So I don't know that I would do it, but I'm interested to see what happens for my dad's
Yeah.
because I mean I'll get all the same benefits. I know where I came
No,
from.
that's
after
true, I
him,
suppose,
so it's
yeah.
like
So my cousin did his, and he showed us the results, and it's this great web interface, and you can go through all of these really intricate pieces of information. And what it can do is if you have other family members who have also taken the DNA test, you're able to get more accurate results as to your specific risk factors or the odds of something
Now,
affecting you
are
in
the
the future
medical
or
things
now.
are the medical correlations with DNA tests at all proven yet? Because as of a couple of years ago, to the best of my knowledge, they were not yet sort of proven by any kind of studies or anything. Like they were thought to be strong correlations, but it wasn't the sort of thing where you could say, oh, I have these markers, therefore. Like, it's certainly not causal or anything like that.
So, interestingly enough, and kind of what had gotten me interested in my cousin's results is that I'm currently going through the process of having my own DNA tested, specifically in relation to my genetic risk factors for breast cancer.
Yeah.
So my mom and two of her sisters were both diagnosed, and one sister died as a result. In addition to my mother, the other had an untimely death in a plane accident. So we wouldn't have known whether or not cancer was eventually the reason why she died. But two of the sisters did die as a result of breast cancer. And so my risk factor at this time in my life is high enough that I qualify for government funded genetic testing. So what will happen, and what I talked to the geneticist about back in December, is what happens. So what actually comes of this genetic testing? What can they tell me? So at this point in time, there are 19 genes that they can test against that have a very strong correlation with the presence of a mutation that causes breast cancer. So two of the most common ones are the BRCA1 and the BRCA2 gene, and they were two of the first ones that were identified as being related to breast cancer, and they've since discovered 17 others that can also tell you a bit about what your risk factors are. Mm-hmm. And so the way that they classify it is, high, moderate, low risk. So there are genes that are tied to more high risk developments in breast cancer, and those that are tied, there's like a low correlation. So,
but are there other factors in your life besides your genome that can contribute to your risk, or is this the best way we know to predict this risk at this point?
So there are compounding factors such as lifestyle, so weight.
Oh, okay.
Just like smoking would put you at higher risk for lung cancer, but you could also have a genetic component in that as well. So while, yes, there is a genetic component, there's also a lifestyle component. And so the one thing that the geneticist had mentioned to me was that it could be a environmental factor that is related to the reason why three of the sisters on my mom's side, 3 of 4 sisters on my mom's side, developed breast cancer. So was it where they were living? Was it their environment that was a result or was a cause that resulted in breast cancer, or is it something in my family's genetic history?
Right. Okay. So your genome, the
cancer.
results of these tests could be an indicator of problems, but perhaps no more than you already know that you may be susceptible because of your family.
And it could have been absolutely nothing, or it could be that I have something completely different. Who knows? Huh. And so one of the things that they talked about, and the one thing that I think people should keep in mind if they are considering, and it's the thing that they told me to keep in mind, is that right now in Canada, there are no laws protecting individuals from insurance discrimination. So if you have done genetic testing...
Okay, this is interesting.
So if you've done genetic testing and you have found out perhaps that you are a carrier or you have a genetic predisposition for XYZ, so a cancer, a mental health condition, a deteriorating mental health or neurological condition, you can be discriminated against for insurance, which means that if you go to apply, they can ask, have you done genetic testing? And if you check yes to that box, they can request your results and deny you insurance as a result, or charge you higher premiums.
Now, there's nothing saying that the company that you did the test with is compelled to give them that information. But if that was part of that company's business model to resell your information, then that could be a problem, right?
Not to resell, but it would be insurance fraud to not disclose.
No, it would be insurance fraud for you to not disclose that you have had that testing done, but that doesn't mean that the company is compelled to give up the results of that test, does it?
Nope, but the insurance company is then within their rights to deny you coverage.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
I see. So,
they can ask you for it, and you can say no, and they'll say, we're not giving you insurance. Yes.
If you won't give it up, because the thought being that you've got something to hide otherwise. That seems like a kind of a hole in our laws, doesn't it?
So when I talked to the geneticist, they had suggested that there's currently some murmurings at the provincial and federal levels to like a private member's bill, essentially.
Like,
to
the only
address
reason
this.
I say that sounds like a problem is because it seems to me like genetic testing isn't yet reliable enough to say for sure that things are causal, right? Like, if we had genetic testing that said 100% you get this test and we know you're going to get testicular cancer, then absolutely 100% that should be something that your insurance company takes into account. But until we know that that's causal, it doesn't really seem like something that's fair to hold against you for something that may not even ever actually affect you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
Interesting.
So back to this this idea of like family members and like my genetic testing. I'm going to know a little bit about my genetic background. But with my cousin, I was talking to my dad on our way home today, and I was like, "Hey, would you do this?" My dad's like, "So what is it, like a mouth swab?" I was like, "Yeah, pretty much." So I think what I'm going to get my dad to do and what I'm going to do is we'll have 3 separate sides of our family, my cousin, myself, and my dad, do this 23andMe to get some more stronger results.
Oh,
so the
that's
more of us
interesting.
that we do, the stronger the results will be.
That's really interesting. Man, now I'm actually curious. I wonder what I would find if I did the swab.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like even taking a look at the web interface, right? When Kayla's cousin showed us, it wasn't just necessarily medical. There was a category for likelihood of cilantro aversion, which is the condition where you find cilantro to taste like soap or to taste disgusting. And I'm pretty sure I'm like 75% of the way there because I really dislike cilantro and everything. I don't find it tastes like soap, but that's the sort of stuff that you can find out. The other component is like, how close to a Neanderthal are you?
See, I like stuff like that. I don't know so much that I'm interested in the medical predictors. I'm just interested in the neat, like, history stuff.
The other thing that I guess you could do, and I guess what you could argue to your insurance company if this ever came up, is some of the results are actually gated behind a, yes, I am sure I want to know this.
Oh,
So
that's
even after
interesting.
you've done the testing, it's like, click here to actually confirm that you want to see this. Once you see it, it can never be unseen sort of thing.
It's just goatsy
What
behind
would
that
be
link.
behind that?
Just goatsy.
I think it's like risk factors for certain types of cancers. I think that's the main one that I saw.
Huh. Yeah, I know it also does things like what nationalities and what races, what percentage you are of each and stuff like that.
See, that's the thing that
Interesting.
I'm interested in is that apparently if you get enough people in your family to do this, you can pinpoint exact cities where people come from. I think that's really fascinating.
So I don't know, where do you all sit on it? Would you do it? Do you want to do it? We should do it as Slightly Sauced tests their genetics.
Well, that's like this Modern Rogue video that I was telling you about. The 2 hosts of this video, they went and they did this testing and then they compared their results. And it was actually really interesting to see, what part of the world they came from and who their ancestors were.
So like I said, I don't have any good reason for this thought other than it kind of weirds me out, but I don't know that I would do it. But I'm interested in seeing what my dad's results are because I think that would get me close enough to know, well, at least half of my background.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the risk in it, but I think I would feel more comfortable with it as a practice for everybody, really, if there were better data protection laws about it. I don't think you should be compelled to give up the results of any test that you take. I don't care what that test is.
It won't be long anyway before you have to do this to get your driver's license, so.
Well, but then again,
Or
like,
qualify for healthcare.
if you can show a causal link between these things and the results, then I think I might be okay with that, as long as there's good studies proving that link,
In my cousin's slide deck that he was showing us for a minute there was a slide in this deck that showed the cost of mapping the human genome from
I think
over
it was
a time period.
2001. Yeah, where it started and it went up until close to today. And initially, I think it was like $100 million, and now it's $150.
Huh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's dropped so much in the last couple of years. And that's the thing is like a lot of these 23andMe, is that what it is?
That's one of them, yeah.
That's
Yep.
one of
There's
the...
another big one
Sorry.
that I forget, but
I just, for some reason, the number didn't sound right when I said that. Anyway, 23andMe.
21 and me.
I think if you have 21 chromosomes,
Yeah, I was
you've
gonna say,
got
how
a
many
problem.
chromosomes do I have? No, but they're just one company. And I think we're getting to the point where it's a mass market sort of thing, or that we're going to reach like a
Critical mass?
critical mass. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's why you have to
Things
put
are-
your tinfoil hat on, though, is when you reach that critical mass, what are the unforeseen circumstances or consequences of everyone having done it, you know?
But I think, so this is the other thing.
Someone's going to build an army of clones of everyone who's gotten their 23andMe done.
This is the other thing to consider, though, is I don't know that by not doing this, you're all that protected anyway.
No, probably
because
not.
if you think for a second, I'm not that I want to pin Google as the bad guy here, but let's say everyone has a Google account. We all Google things. Hey, this rash is weird. Let me Google that. Or this, I'm feeling this way. Let me
for
Google
sure.
that. Guaranteed, they can get enough information from that to get a rough estimate of what you are in terms of your medical history, and then aggregate that over the population. They have the same information, more or less. So obviously, things like 23andMe are much more accurate, and at this time, they can do things that no one else can do. But
But that's what's interesting, right? Is what would happen? What would be the profile that you could build out of yourself if you were to combine everything Google knows about you, everything that your phone and internet providers know about you, everything that 23andMe knows about you. Like if you were to put all those profiles together, like if you were acting as an investigator, for example, how predictive would it be of your real self? That would be a fascinating experiment. I've always wondered, like, in a somewhat unrelated note, if I were to try and internet sleuth myself, like if I were started at zero and try and build a profile of myself just from publicly available information, how far I'd get. And a part of me's never done it just because I'm kind of scared of what I'd find, given all the podcasts and shit that we've put out over the years. Also, it'd be a massive amount of work, but I think you could build a pretty comprehensive profile of me. And I'm someone who's reasonably careful about what I put on social media, and I still think you could build a comprehensive profile of me.
I think the other interesting factor to consider in mapping a person's own genome is personalized medicine. So knowing enough about the way bodies work to be able to tailor fit a drug or tailor fit.
Right, but that's not an approach that's been proven yet, right? That's still a hypothetical. And it's fascinating as a hypothetical, but I don't think anyone's actually done it yet, have they?
I don't know.
Like, are you asking whether or not it's approved?
Yeah, I'm asking,
treatment?
Is it possible? Is there a drug right now? Like, so a good example of this would be, I say a good example of this because it's one I can think of. I don't know if it's actually good. Birth control pills, right? Like, there's a bunch of different formulations of the female birth control pills, and many women have to try a bunch of different variations and find, or antidepressants is another example, right? There's a bunch of different formulations that you might try, and some might work, some might not, or some might have side effects. The day that somebody comes out with the ability to do a genome swab and then go, oh, this is exactly the one for you, I don't think that's been done yet, but it's a fascinating notion.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that is, well, I guess we don't know. I was going to say, I wonder how much of that is just that they know what it is, but they're just not allowed to treat people that way yet, versus
that's a good
we
question.
just don't know,
yeah.
Right?
And the way drugs are manufactured, they're manufactured mass market. So
yes.
Every person who takes say an antidepressant, sure, maybe you can get a slightly different dosage. But for example, with birth control pills, all, say, tricycline pills are the exact same dosage across all people.
Well, and you always hear those horror stories too, every now and again about like the person who has the rarest disease and OHIP doesn't cover their drug that they need, and because it's so rare, it's $1,000 a pill or something, and they have to take 3 pills a day. Like there's these horror stories that pop up every now and again, and it's sort of a natural consequence of drugs being a thing that are manufactured for profit, right? There's not really any way around it. If you're a part of some super small cohort and there's really no demand for this drug, then yeah, it's going to cost a lot of money. Like there's no way really around that. So I wonder if you could do personalized medicine, how that would have to tip the drug industry on its head, because it wouldn't make sense the way that it's set up now.
You'd need more. There are pharmacies that do like compounding on site. You'd need more of them.
Yeah, I suppose so.
That, or we'll just have machines do it. Like really, we're going to get to the point where all the stuff is just solved and it's taken for granted, right?
Yeah, probably.
Like it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Well,
You get mapped as part of your birth, and
but it also means that we have
Sure.
to like really understand these drug treatments better than we do right now. Like I was listening to a podcast a little while ago, and I don't know how accurate this was, but the person that was on it was saying that, regarding antidepressants specifically, to some extent, we don't fully understand the way that antidepressants interact with your brain. And so if we don't fully understand the impact of that brain chemistry, then it may not even be possible to make a personalized drug because we don't understand how what we've got right now works exactly. And so how can we personalize
I know a basic amount, SSRIs or selective serotonin.
Sure. But that's
reuptake inhibitors.
Right, but all of that is a model of how we think that it interacts with your brain. But until we really understand the details, is it possible to actually tweak a drug for a specific person?
Well, more importantly, I think what you're saying is even if we did understand the details, we don't have the ability to accurately measure on an individual basis.
Yep. And because, and one of the things that they were saying in this particular conversation is that one of the issues with antidepressants in particular is there's no real way to objectively measure whether or not they're working. They work entirely by letting someone try it for a couple of weeks and then getting feedback to say, do you feel better than you did last week, right? And that's a really time-consuming and complicated process. So until you understand not only how the mechanism works, but how to measure it in an objective sense, it's hard for me to understand how you might be able to like create a drug specifically for a person because you can't measure what it is you're creating.
Yeah, fair enough.
So anyway, not to be a total downer or anything. I mean, I'm sure we'll get there technically eventually, but I'm just not sure that we're there yet.
So, of all the genealogy stuff and all the cool things that came out of that conversation with my cousin, just to wrap that, he's got all of these great pictures dating back decades and decades and decades. And there is this phenomenal picture, which we can put up with this episode, of my grandfather at a little girl's birthday party. He's got to be maybe 5 or 6 in this picture. And the caption on the photo says, Weldon's first girlfriend. And it's him with this shit-eating grin on his face, standing beside a little girl with his arm around her, with the girl covering her face with both of her hands in embarrassment. It's amazing.
That sounds really cute. That sounds really cute.
It's adorable. It was well worth, the drive to Kingston, all of the apple pie, and the drive with traffic home.
Well, you have to make sure you dump that one in the Dropbox so we can include that in the show notes. That's funny.
You betcha.
I look forward to seeing your heat map on 23andMe.
Yeah.
All the
I will
crazy stuff you come
definitely
up
share
with.
my results.
Well, that's a cool story.
Can do an
Thank
update
you.
once I get my my genetic testing back from Grand River.
All right, very good. So the post that I'm reading is from Boing Boing. It's a day before Valentine's Day, and I'll probably just read it in its entirety because it's fairly short.
Okay.
Just when I think I've seen it all on Amazon, I am reminded that no, I have not. Today I learned that you can buy a type of chocolate gift box called Edible Anus.
I'm sorry, what?
That's right, Edible Anus.
No.
From the product description, the box includes 3 edible anuses, dark, milk, and bleach. Sort of like a Hershey's Kiss, only it's an anus. Eat it all up or let it dissolve on the tongue. Belgian chocolate, a perfectly formed British anus, and there are measurements.
Oh, God.
Why is that a
So
thing?
many awful questions. So many awful questions.
Just like, but what?
I'm just going to paste the link in right now into the Slack channel so everyone can appreciate the photo. We can
Does
grab
it
it out
look
for
like
the show notes.
a little butthole?
I'm looking forward to seeing this picture. Really am.
So, speaking of anuses, driving... We were speaking of anuses.
It's true, we were.
Has anybody just paid attention recently to Walmart's rebrand with their Splat logo that just totally looks like a butthole?
They have a Splat logo?
Yeah.
Nope, can't say I have.
Oh, don't think I've noticed that, actually.
It absolutely... It looks like a butt.
Okay, good to know.
Shop at Buttmart.
Oh my God. Yep, Jake, you weren't even kidding. Those are edible anuses.
Is that can't be the real though? That looks like it's photoshopped in or whatever.
Pure Belgian chocolate. I mean, we should buy a box of it. How much does it cost? There's a link. Let's see. Oh, it's opening Amazon. Come on, load, you bastard. I'll buy a box for me anyway. Oh, it's on Amazon.com. May not ship to Canada. Shit.
Try going on Amazon.ca and typing
It's
it
not
in.
even expensive. $8.38.
Does it ship regardless?
It's pretty
that
expensive for
American?
3 chocolates.
For only 3 chocolates. Yeah, okay, so it's $26 per 100 grams, Derek.
Yeah, but it's pure Belgian chocolate.
And it's anus shaped, more importantly.
Gross.
I have half a mind to just buy this right now. Let's see here. Does it work? Can I buy it?
What am I looking for in this image you just put in there?
If it's me, it's
The yellow.
the anus, the yellow.
Oh, I
splat.
can't buy it.
Oh.
It won't ship
You
to
can't
Canada.
buy
$7 shipping to Canada.
No, I'm not paying $7 shipping on top of $8.38 for 3 chocolates. That's silly. I'm not that committed to this pod. I'm sorry.
We could all share an anus.
I'll share an anus with
the
you
other
any day,
thing.
man.
The other thing that came out of the fantastic history that my cousin had just before I was just flipping through the pictures to find the one of my grandfather. So he's got all of this military paraphernalia because a lot of my family members have been part of the Canadian Armed Forces. So one of them was like the Soldier's Field Guide to London, and it was how, as a new young soldier in London, not to get raked over the coals when you go out into the streets and try to play 3-card Monty. And they also had this little, it looks like almost like the kind of package that you would get rolling papers in.
Mm-hmm.
Except when you flip it open, it's got this image of a lady, and it instructs you to pull back these white tabs to undress the lady. And my cousin said that it was called it was called war porn. So they created these little images that the soldiers could keep in their pockets while they were serving.
Really? War porn.
Yep.
How about that? That's something. Do they still make that these days?
I don't know, but
I think they just use real porn.
Give you an
John.
SD card full of some good porno or what?
here you go. Your enlistment and
A deck of playing cards with naked ladies.
Well, I mean, you got
got to keep you entertained while you're overseas.
Sure, you got to keep people happy and healthy.
Oh, Mrs. Queen of Hearts.
All right, is that it for us tonight?
Think so?
John, you can get edible anuses on Amazon.ca
Can I?
for
Is the
$12.
shipping any better than $7?
I think it's free shipping.
Free shipping. Well, shit, Derek, order some.
I do not enjoy anuses that much.
But these ones are edible.
All anuses are edible, John.
You know that's the title of the show. Episode 206. All anuses are edible.
Please don't.
Oh,
No,
come on now.
we have definitely had
think it's a great
conversations
title.
about your liberal
Titles.
Show
titles.
Yeah.
All right, fine. You guys are no fun. Anyway, that's it for us, guys. Have a good night. Find us on... Oh, hey, we have a YouTube channel now, Jake and Kayla. Did you know that?
I did see the notification.
There you go. We
I did not, so good to
got
know.
a YouTube channel.
Hey, Jake.
We're on Stitcher and iTunes and all the other podcast places. Send us an email. Contact us, slightlysauce.com.
Hey, Jake, make sure you like and
Yeah,
subscribe.
it's very important.
If we did a live video feed or a joint video feed, we could actually have something worthwhile.
I don't
to put
think
on
my
YouTube.
internet connection will handle a live video feed of y'all, but
Who wants to see us anyway?
I don't know. Come to my house and I'll shoot a video of us.
Of the podcast, right?
I mean, I guess. Depends on what kind of video you want to be in,
No,
Kayla.
of the anuses, Kayla.
Yeah. All right.
We're gonna have an anus eating competition.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Everybody stop.
Hammer time?